Hello there, everybody. This is another episode of the SLTD Wrestling Going Over Big Time podcast. This is the Fantastic. I also go by my real name, Alan. I'm here joined by my friend Mike. We are here to just review the pay per view that just unfolded in Las Vegas. The relaunched Total Nonstop Action TNA Wrestling presents Hard to Kill live at the Palms Resort in Las Vegas on January 13th. We're going to go over the results, some of the highlights, and look forward to what goes on from the relaunch or rebirth of TNA Wrestling. And I think it's a very exciting time. TNA Wrestling, of course, was founded around 2002, and it had a 15-year run until 2017 when the name was dropped and it was changed to Impact Wrestling. That's the name that it was operating under until this past week. Um, so let's go over the pay per view a little bit. So before it got started, even before the pre-show, we got this, I guess, sort of a vignette from TNA original Eric Young. He's going on about how a relaunch of the company and what it means. And I thought he came out, and some people online, Mike, joked that he kind of looked like current Triple H. And it was like, uh, I was like half expecting him to shout, "We are TNA" or something like that. And
Hmm.
yeah, so, a very inspirational speech. Everybody was on the stage, whether in character heels or face baby faces, and then we just got a great start to the show.
Hmm.
So let's take a look at the results here. Pre-show, we had singles three matches. First match was Steve Macklin defeating Rich Swan by pinfall. Two former TNA World Champions going at it for about 10 minutes. No, not really shocked by Steve Macklin picking up the win here. Steve Macklin
No,
seems to be on a trajectory once again.
yeah.
Um, he now has the distinction of being a former TNA World Champion, probably on his way to working back towards that. Of course, he might have a obstacle or two in his way, which we'll get into later. The next match is well, this is interesting. Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers facing off against Frankie Kazarian and Eric Young in a tag team match. Before the match started, it was revealed that Eddie Edwards, Alicia, Brian Myers, and Moose have, I guess, joined forces in a new faction called the System. Their tagline is basically "Trust the System," basically trust them. Um, I don't know, Mike.
Very, very weird amalgamation of people.
Yeah, like Moose and Eddie Edwards have a very heated had a very heated rivalry several years ago. Um, the Brian Myers joining Moose for a while as a tag team was always kind of strange.
Yep.
Ever since Matt Cardona went back to the Indies,
Hmm.
and well, anyway, Edwards joining another faction to me, Mike, was kind of like, oh, they're doing this again. Eddie Edwards just came off like being the leader of this ragtag group of former Ring of Honor misfits called Honor No More, and that kind of fizzled out at the end of 2022.
Well, I
So
think it comes down to they really don't know what to do with Eddie Edwards right now.
that's true.
That's
Yeah.
kind of where, because obviously, and we'll talk about it later, he's not going to be going for the world title anytime soon. So
hmm
what are you doing with him? We'll just make him the leader of another group.
I'm not sure he's the leader of this group. Even
Uh, I,
I think
it's hard. It's hard to say.
it's hard to say. It's like is the guy with the gold the title. It almost reminds me, Mike, of the little group back in WWE around the early 2010s called the Core, which was a
Mm,
group of former Nexus people consisting of Wade Barrett, uh, then Justin Gabriel, Heath Slater, and Ezekiel Jackson. And the tagline for them was that there was no leader in that group,
uh huh.
at this point, I'm not sure who the leader, if
And
any, is in the system.
Ezekiel Jackson, not a former Nexus member. But
That is yes, that is accurate. Thank you for correcting me. I almost forgot about that. Ezekiel Jackson was
just a guy.
lots of potential. Just they just didn't know what to do with a big dude like that. Um, but yeah, as for the system group, it's looks like a group mix, ragtag mix of TNA veterans, not so much originals. Eddie Edwards was not a TNA original per se. Plus, Brian Myers only joined the
No,
company
he
a few
was
years ago.
he was an ROH original.
Yeah, I mean,
I
yeah,
mean, not
he
not
went from he
not
went
from the
from
very beginning. Not from the very beginning. He was
no,
there.
he went. He went from in the Honor No More stable. He went from going against TNA Impact to then just being a guy in the company again. So yeah, it's hard to figure out other than them just being a bunch of heels what they're really here
And
for.
that's what it comes down to with these groups with Eddie Edwards. What are we doing?
Right.
Because obviously there was never a plan for whatever Honor No More is, and I'm sure there isn't a plan for this. There was
Well,
just a
we'll
couple
see.
of
We'll see what happens. Let's see how this unfolds. Whether this group is just a way to bolster the guy who's got some gold right now. But anyway, we'll get into
yeah,
that later. And the final match in the pre-show was for the TNA Digital Media Championship.
the most
It's a
pointless championship in all of wrestling.
no disqualification match between Crazy Steve and Tommy Dreamer. Yeah, Digital Media Championship is their version of a world television title, I feel like. Yes, Crazy Steve, a match which I feel he should have won back around post Bound for Glory, but didn't.
Agreed. Agreed.
And I guess they wanted to have a more, no pun intended, impact by having him win in the first TNA show ever, in New Era.
And they built this whole match around one specific spot in the storyline, which was when they were talking to each other as friends, and Tommy Dreamer literally got stabbed in the back by a fork.
Right. And
And that
yeah.
was this whole match. A lot of forks.
Yes, yes. I literally don't remember anything else. Like even if as a no disqualification match, they did a bunch of stuff to each other. But yeah, the one takeaway spot was Crazy Steve, I believe, pulled out a bag, and we all expect like thumbtacks, right? But in this
Mm-hmm.
case, it was a bag of forks, and he
Yes.
stuffed a bunch of forks down Tommy Dreamer's shirt, and then went and did a high impact move where he just, I guess, drop kicked him,
Yep.
and with the forks tucked in his chest, which
Yes.
yeah, that was
I
supposed to hurt.
I
And
hope Abdullah the Butcher was watching this match.
yeah, he might want some royalties after that kind of copyright infringement. Anyway,
Well,
uh,
I
Crazy
mean,
Steve
they're
picks
not
up.
the only people to use forks. He doesn't own the
Yeah,
copyright.
Moxley's doing that too, and I'm sure a number of guys, of course, were inspired by the legend of Abdullah the Butcher. Anyway, Crazy Steve walks away with the win as he should have months ago. He's now the digital media champion, and we will see how this sort of like deranged character that Steve is playing will help. Probably, I'm optimistic. Help
Mm,
bolster the prestige of this really most recent title in TNA's collection.
that they
Uh,
really need to change the name of.
yeah, I would have thought they would just change it back to the TNA World Television Championship or something more traditional. Or,
Yeah, it just doesn't sound right whenever you say
but I think it's
the
like, I think it's more accurate to reflect how the viewership of TNA still currently is through mostly digital media platforms. TNA Plus, their YouTube channel.
I get it.
Access TV is, I would say, a station that is not as well known. I myself could not find Access TV on normal cable provider, cable.
And Verizon Fios no longer carries it. So
Yeah,
I don't even have the ability to watch Impact or TNA Impact anymore.
Anyway, let's move on to the main show. The opening match is the Knockouts Ultimate X match to determine the number one contender for the TNA Knockouts World Championship.
Uh, I will say, predictable winner.
Yes, I would say too. So the participants were Jody Threat, Tasha Steeles, Alicia Edwards, Danny Luna, Zaya Brookside, a recent signee, the daughter of Robbie Brookside, one of the NXT coaches,
Mm-hmm.
and Giselle Shaw from Toronto, my hometown area.
Mm-hmm.
Giselle Shaw walked away with this win. I was very impressed with the way Giselle unhooked the X and then managed to basically land on her feet and not splatter to the ground and possibly injure herself.
Yeah, she's a
Um,
good athlete.
that is, I would say she deserved this immensely. She has been
Uh,
working her butt
yeah,
off in the past year or two since coming here, and yeah, there were a few times when she was close to a Knockouts World Championship or the Knockouts World Tag Team Championship. She did not have that much success as a tag wrestler. It seems she seems to have a knack for turning against her partners every time it doesn't work out. So,
yeah,
and I do see a trajectory of her becoming the Knockouts World Champion this year.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, not right away. I think
yeah,
it'll
not right away.
probably.
Obviously, we will get into that later. But
Yeah.
what I did notice in this match, in terms of spots, was I found it strange that there was girls that were climbing the rope on the way to grab the X, and then suddenly decided to just release themselves and drop back down for no reason
Well, that was
to
because
attack
they probably
somebody.
would have been attacked anyway while they were doing
I
it.
looked at
So,
I don't know, I looked at one spot. It looked like she wasn't in any. I don't know, remember who it was. Felt like it was Saya, Brookside, or Danny Luna, but it didn't feel like they were in any imminent danger of
hmm
being taken down. So
and I think that might also come down to inexperience in the match type. Uh,
yeah,
I think obviously this is only our second ever women's Ultimate X match.
that
This
is
is
true. It is historic.
um so I think that once you get more people, and I guess they didn't really have a lot of time to practice using the cables. Um, but yeah, I think that it probably either comes down to that or they were just thinking like, oh, somebody's just gonna knock me down, so I'll just come down. But yeah, everybody in this match was looked pretty good in the ring. I absolutely hate Tower of Doom spots. I will always hate them. Um,
Yes, there was a massive Tower of Doom spot that
and
yeah, as you mentioned.
it the power bomb spot is always pointless. Always. Literally, the person doing the power bomb spot is doing nothing. It looks dumb. You know that the people are falling because of the superplex spot. So to make to try to get me to believe that the person doing the power bombs part is the reason that they fell is stupid. It's very dumb. So I hate it. And I will always hate it. Men or women. It's a bad spot. And
Well, yeah,
yeah, but everybody in this match looked good. I love Zaya Brookside. She's a great wrestler. Had a great time in Stardom. She was part of the same group as Mariah May called Club Venus. So go out of your way to find some of her matches there because she really like honed her craft there, just like Mariah May did. And yeah, I everybody else. Danny Luna is new to me. I I've heard the name, but didn't know too
she
much
is
about her.
she hangs around with Flash Morgan Webster and Mark
Okay.
Andrews in the Subculture group.
Okay, that's where I heard the name then.
That
So
was a group
I
that was actually started in NXT UK, and then when they were
yes.
released, or when NXT UK folded, they took the name and went on the Indies and back to some of the UK
Yes. So
territory.
that's probably where I heard her name before. I just didn't know too much
She
about her as a
she is
wrestler.
also she's also signed by in the new TNA, so
Yes.
we'll see
Yes.
more of her. Saya Brooks, I believe, yeah, she's getting a bit of
Officially signed. Yeah.
yes,
Officially
officially
signed.
signed, getting a bit of push. I'm not sure if you saw TNA Impact this past Thursday, but she actually picked up a win over Tasha Steeles. Um,
Hmm.
and I think they're running it back because they're having another match. So I don't I believe I saw that in the notification of the taping. So that might
Yeah.
be run back again. But yeah, anyway, despite the what you say the awful Tower of Doom spot and maybe some other stuff, uh, the right winner was came out in Giselle Shaw. So
Yes.
definitely things are looking very interesting in the women's division. Next match, it was supposed to be a singles match between PCO and Dirty Dango, accompanied by Alpha Bravo and the former Vladimir Kozlov, now known as Oleg Prudius. This match only lasted a minute. First of all, PCO, a lot of them like they keep pushing how PCO was the first signee of the new TNA. Um, and not only did PCO become the first signee, he got a new ring entrance whereby a bunch of doctors or alleged doctors in like medical gowns comes out pushing some kind of body covered by a sheet out into the entrance ramp, and then you see a guy starts like trying to like I guess activating a machine that will usually you start a car with it. So there's a lot of sparks and
Yeah.
stuff. So he's like,
It's a
it's the Frankenstein.
Frankenstein
Yeah, the
wrestling.
Frankenstein spot. So they're literally doing this. I think they're doing this for every time PCO has a match now. So that's going to take some time for the entrance. So yeah, so
Probably.
the sparks apparently supposed to wake PCO up and bring him to life, and then he comes out looking as scary as shit.
Hmm.
This match only lasted a minute because there was some interference by Oleg, which led to a disqualification. And then obviously this did not was not going to be the final outcome as we got Santino Marella coming out and then declaring this a six-man tag team match between Dango, Prudius, and Bravo versus PCO's partners Rhino and Jake something. So we went from a singles match to a six-man tag team match. Rhino, Jake something, and PCO pick up the win here. I wasn't that shocked.
Of course
Um,
not.
I think you mentioned to me that you didn't think we needed Santino involved in this particular
Well, of
segment.
course. Well, that's the only reason that he was here was to do this, and this you could have did this on television. You didn't have to waste time on a pay per view to do this because this was not a pay per view match. This I mean, neither is Dango versus PCO, but here we are, and um, yeah, I didn't like any of this. uh,
It was like,
obvious. I mean, the match was fine once it was a six man because you got Jake something in there who's really good. Rhino still is really good, and PCO is great, but everybody else on the other team is not.
yeah, I mean, Dango is like, I'm sort of like
He's
ambivalent.
fine.
He's
He's
fine. I'm
fine.
ambivalent to his character. He just comes out and goes, "Man, do I hate pro wrestling." And then he comes out and says, "Man, do I hate TNA wrestling." And I'm like, "Why are you working here then, dude, if you hate TNA wrestling?"
Exactly.
Um,
That makes zero sense.
I will say
But then you got the you got Oleg, who
who's
is
who is morphing into 1998 Kurgan at this point.
he hasn't wrestled in 10 years since coming to Impact TNA, and that shows,
Well, you know why
especially in
that
this match.
well, my speculation why that happened is the Santino connection, that's all.
Sure, but you could have
That's
got anybody. You could have literally got anybody. I
Yeah, you
understand.
could have probably found Kurgan. Last time I saw Kurgan, he was in one of those
I mean,
he was one in the Sherlock Holmes movie, and he still
yeah,
looked like he could kick your ass.
he does a lot of movies,
Yeah.
but yeah, he's not good anymore because he hasn't wrestled in over a decade. And I understand that there are people who haven't wrestled in over a decade who are still good or still somewhat passable. This is not that. And um yeah, and then Bravo is not a wrestler. So
Well, yeah, no, he was a referee, and then he just became like an on-screen character, and then he was like involved in a bunch of really strange stuff, including
I mean,
being
I'm sure he's got wrestling training, but
yeah,
he's not
as a former referee. So,
but he's
well,
not a wrestler.
yeah,
So
no,
every time he has a match, you just know he's getting pinned.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, this was a light little comedic affair for those of you who are enjoy like just a little light laugh before like some of the more serious stuff. Speaking of serious
Sure.
stuff, there was a match that was not previously scheduled. It was just announced, but for the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Championship, MK Ultra, Killer Kelly and Masha Slamovich were presented with the new version of the titles on the day of Hard to Kill. And obviously told you offline that yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to be defending. I just didn't know who.
You
Uh,
mean they face the only other tag team in the entire
yeah,
company?
so the returning Decay, Havoc and Rosemary. Last time I saw them, they were like these like the Death Dolls, as Courtney Rush and Jessica. I guess they were like they decided to go into the undead realm to find themselves, and apparently they did because
Uh
they're
huh.
back as Decay.
I mean,
And
she didn't really look like Rosemary. She looked like Courtney Rush with eye makeup on.
yeah, Rosemary is supposed to be the demon assassin with like the scary face paint, right? But anyway, this match didn't last long. In about 6 minutes or so, DK once again became the Knockouts World Tag Team Championships for I think their third title reign. If you lump in both their identities as Decay and as the Death Dolls,
Yeah.
yeah, this for one of them it's the third reign, for one of them it's the fourth reign. I can't remember who.
Yeah.
Uh,
This is fine.
yeah.
I mean, both teams are great. I like all four of them as individuals. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't keep Masha and Killer Kelly as a team because I think they're both great as singles. I mean, I'm sure they're gonna want a rematch at some point, but I don't think they're gonna win that rematch. And then from there, I would prefer them to be singles. And then you'll just put a random team together again. I mean, they have the same formula as WWE. I mean, at least WWE right now has at least 5 women's tag teams, but usually they would have two. One would be the champion, one would be the challenger, and then the loser would no longer be a team, and then they would put a new team together and repeat.
So this is one of the rare occurrences where in terms of like who's doing a women's tag division better is actually WWE because on Raw they have at least three teams I can rhyme off: Chelsea Green, Piper Niven, the former the Way I guess Candice and Indy, and I guess Natalia
Nat,
and
Natty and
Natty
Tegan,
and Tegan.
Shayna and
Yeah, Shayna and the Zoe Stark, and then
Zoe
you got the EDM girls, as what's Kaden
as the
Carter, Janet Jackson as
champions, and then you
champions,
got the
and you got
Unholy Union.
the Unholy Union, and then the Kabuki Warriors again. Yeah, so they actually have some kind of division going on over in WWE. Meanwhile, TNA probably will be struggling on that a bit. For me, I feel like Alicia she should they will probably pair her off with someone and then make Alicia win the
I mean,
championship down the road.
you could always put Danny Luna and Zaya Brookside together.
That's another one. Um, you know,
But yeah,
I feel like Alicia and Tasha Steeles would have a good chemistry.
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love love Killer Kelly, love Masha Slamovich, both amazing wrestlers.
Let's
We
yeah,
we know Masha Slamovich from her GCW stuff and indie stuff, and I mean
yeah,
she was the GCW World Champion
yes.
for a while.
Yeah, yeah, they're all great. I mean, eventually Masha and Killer Kelly would probably be better off as singles. I should mention the one spot that I think you and I
The
remember from
really hot
the
spot.
really, really hot spot that I believe you mentioned it was. So Rosemary is flat on her back, and Killer Kelly is crawling on top of her and doing the whole very seductive kind of thing. And then Rosemary just sits up, and it just reverses itself. Like she gets on top of Killer Kelly and then starts
Yes,
wailing on her. So
yes.
if you want to look it up, then I'm sure it's all over the
It's I
place.
mean Killer Kelly shared it. She basically said she's like I see you
Yeah,
guys
yeah, definitely.
because it was very hot.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. The next match is a three-way dance for the TNA X Division Championship.
Great
So
match.
before this match started,
The weirdest
Scott,
segment in the world.
um,
One of the weirdest segments in the world because
do you want to bring that up, please? Because I might be thinking of another segment.
oh no, I think we're talking about the same thing.
Oh,
So um Scott Demore
yes.
comes out before the match
Hmm.
and introduces the president of AAA
Hmm.
and says that they're going into a partnership, even though they already had one. They're
So my understanding is this was an extension of the existing partnership, but it looks like they sold it as some kind of new thing.
well, because they're saying like, oh, well, they had a partnership with Impact Wrestling before, not
Okay.
TNA. So now they have a partnership with TNA. That's how I saw it. And that's why it was weird because they showed footage of the fact that they already had a partnership.
So
So
my understand so it's like thinking going back to like how like guys were like announced that we're signing with TNA. It's almost like, oh yeah, Impact no longer exists anymore. You're gonna have to sign a new contract with TNA, even though it's the same company. So I guess that's the logic behind that. That
so
oh yeah,
I
you had a
understand
partnership
why
with the previous company, Impact Wrestling, and now we're gonna continue the relationship, but you need to sign a new thing. It's with TNA, which is the
yes.
same, right?
So I understand why they did this. It was also to tie into the fact that like Kingo was in this match. So that's fine. Um but yeah, that was just odd because the partnership already existed just with a different name. So it's weird. But either way, besides that, that's fine. They have their remaining partners, which is good. It's helped everybody. Um, uh, just I guess a news note that we could tie into this is Black Taurus is done with AAA and is now a free agent and can no longer use that name
Oh.
because AAA owns it.
So
So
he can't go. So he can't call himself Black Taurus.
he no
But
he can't call himself Taurus either.
oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
they
I did see him pop up in Ring of Honor in a couple of matches. I can't
yeah, but
remember if it was
he was still working
Oh,
for
interesting.
AAA. He
Yeah,
no longer
I kind of shared some pictures with you randomly, but it was like the good man formerly known as Black Taurus. I guess pictures of himself working out. He blotted out his face, obviously, because he wears a mask.
yes.
But his
So he
body
no
literally
longer
looks like Roman. His body looks like Roman Reigns. That's
yes.
all the only thing I
So
remember.
he no longer works for AAA, and if he wants to sign somewhere else, he has to get a new gimmick.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah. I mean, fake.
Which isn't hard for a Mexican wrestler, obviously,
Yeah, that's
since
not.
nobody knows what his face looks like.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this match absolutely ruled.
Oh yes,
Uh,
absolutely. Chris Sabin. It was a triple threat. I didn't even mention who was in it. Chris Sabin was defending the title against Vikingo and Kushida. Successful title defense, but yes, this was the kind of X Division match we all come to expect,
mhm.
and high flying, impactful moves.
The
Yeah,
no limits division.
yes, and no limits by means not even weight limit because subsequently in the taping of TNA Impact this past Thursday, there was a 6-man scramble involving Vikingo Kushida, Trey Miguel, um, Laredo Kid, Mike Bailey, and Jake something. So one of
Sure.
those men were not like the other, and
Hmm.
Jake something picked up the win over Laredo Kid. So
Yeah.
guess we might
Well,
be
Jake
seeing
something.
Jake.
He's been in X Division matches before.
Yes, he did face Josh Alexander for the X Division title unsuccessfully a few years ago.
Yeah.
So definitely the X Division can always use a big.
He was in a multi-man match. I think he was in an Ultimate X, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah, I think he was like a surprise entrant, but that was like
Yeah.
such a while ago, and they didn't put him in any X Division stuff for a while. So
Yeah.
now they are having him there again. So
Well,
be a
yeah.
good,
I mean,
yeah,
you
he'd
got
be
to
a
have
great,
him do
yeah,
something. He's not
yeah,
going to
yeah,
be in the world
exactly.
title
I would,
picture for
yeah,
a little
exactly,
while.
exactly. Let's go to the next match. This is sort of, I guess,
Well,
sort of
yeah.
funny.
Just to
Okay,
add to the triple threat, it's just like it's kind of what you come to expect from a Vikingo Kushida Chris Sabin match. A lot of great moves, a lot of great high flying action, uh, and too much of it to even remember. So go out of your way to watch the match because, yeah, I mean, Vikingo is one of the best wrestlers in the world, and for good reason.
yep. Next match is the sort of exhibition match or an open challenge. Josh Alexander I guess, well, he accepted the challenge from a free agent that was just recently available. Former MLW champion, former MLW National Openweight champion, Alex Hammerstone.
Mm-hmm.
He was the longest reigning champion of both the titles I just mentioned.
Yep.
He is a genetic freak, I would say, like almost a Brock Lesnar esque type, but almost like a bit of Hulk Hogan ish,
So
like
yeah.
physique as
Uh,
like
so
presentation as well.
when he was first coming up,
Yeah.
he was getting compared to Triple H
Oh,
because he had long hair and he looked a
yeah.
lot like Triple H. So he cut his hair
Mm.
so that he wouldn't have those comparisons
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
And he also doesn't wrestle like Triple H at all.
No.
He's one of the most athletic big men in all of wrestling, and he is one of the best big men in general. I think and you can't even you look at him compared to most big guys, and like he doesn't look like a big man, quote unquote. He just looks like an athletic, muscular guy who is going to be in high demand.
Oh, absolutely. He will definitely be in high demand, and he was definitely in high demand for TNA. He put
This
Hammerstone
match
was
ruled.
just your expected slapping meat match.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Alexander has billed himself as the sort of like gatekeeper for the new TNA. He grew up on TNA. He sort of like it was his dream to join this company, and he is now billing himself as sort of the standard bearer of TNA. Um, and yeah,
Makes sense.
what a hell of a way to kick off that run. Obviously, taking on Alexander Hammerstone. 15 minutes of just hard hitting action. I only recall Hammerstone hit his amazing finisher, the Nightmare Pendulum, but
Love it. Love it.
what? Yeah, but yeah, Alexander managed to roll out the ring, so avoid getting pinned
Very, very slowly.
very slowly. It wasn't a quick roll. It was just like here and then as soon as Hammerstone tries to reach out, he rolls again, and one of those things where it's just like oh.
Yes.
But anyway, I wasn't too surprised by the result.
Oh no, the result
No,
was never in question.
yeah, of course,
I think if Hammerstone had signed, we would
yeah,
have a different result.
right,
But I think he's going to play the field right now and probably take some big indie bookings and see where his options lie. I mean, unless he doesn't want to be tied down for a while,
yeah,
which makes sense because he was tied down and wasn't happy. So uh, Yeah, I mean, I look forward to seeing him all over and seeing where he's gonna go, what he's gonna do. Obviously, there is the outlier of there is a new group in AEW that is the reason that MJF is gone for now, and MJF is gonna need friends. And there's two in particular that was one in this match, and one was in the main event of the MLW pay per view, who both do not have contracts.
Ah, okay. Yeah, so Richard Holiday was in the MLW main event recently, and but as you mentioned, they both don't have contracts, so that's something to look at down the road to see what happens.
Well,
As for
yeah, because Adam Cole has friends and
yep,
MJF does not.
right. And as for Josh Alexander, I think he will be continuing his whole run as the kind of gatekeeper. He faced off in the subsequent TNA Impact episode against Will Ospreay in their second run outing. The full match is available on YouTube. It is
Yes, and
half an hour of just one of the most just back and forth things you could
I'm
ever
planning to
see.
watch it today because I
Okay,
haven't been able to watch it yet because I don't have
yeah,
the
I
ability
won't.
to watch
Yeah,
Impact.
okay, I won't
But
spoil it for you, but yeah, it was pretty hard hitting and very emotional post match stuff coming from Scott D'Amore.
uh,
So
so I'm gonna tie this in
okay,
since we're talking about Will Ospreay right now.
hmm
Some news came out. Time of recording 2 nights ago that the biggest one of the biggest names in the history of New Japan Wrestling is leaving. Kazuchika Okada is going to be a free agent as of the 31st of January. And this immediately was felt by the wrestling community because of what he has meant to New Japan in the last 15 years. Uh, at least 12. He's been the guy in New Japan, and New Japan is really in a new era with him leaving. Like a truly a new era because he's been the guy. And now they don't have the guy anymore. Um and
yeah, it's like John Cena when he left, just left this could have at the time he left this just gaping hole, which I think eventually they WWE you
yeah,
know figured out how to fill that spot. Almost as like if you think about it, Hulk Hogan, he was such a domineering presence in WWF in the 80s to like early 90s, and then once he was
yeah.
gone, like how do you elevate new stars, right? And then
Yeah, so
I think
now so
what I did read was a quote from New Japan's new president Hiroshi Tanahashi, who said like it's like once the rain stops, because Okada's the rainmaker,
yes.
you see a rainbow. So I thought that was a very endearing quote, and it's like
Well,
alluding to how
and we talked about this in chat with Tanner. Well, I mean me and him did. You
okay,
kind of
yeah, yeah, no, no, I read what you guys are talking about
you chimed in. But
here and there.
yeah, New Japan has this huge crop of talent that is now just getting into the limelight with Shota Umino and Suji and Ren Narita and Uemura. And all these guys are going to be the guys going forward. And you already have guys like Sonata there. And I mean, the guys that you would expect to be the bigger names are kind of already Shingo Takagi and Tetsuya Naito, but Naito's on the last legs of his career. This title run is probably his last run of his entire career, and uh, Takagi is not young. He's in his 40s. I mean, still going strong. I mean, he's amazing, and he's probably my favorite wrestler in all of
And
New
also
Japan.
Tanahashi, who just won the New Japan Television Championship.
Yes,
He's kind of, this might be his last run too. And but he's transitioning into the more corporate side
Office.
of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
office. He's transitioning to the office. So
yeah.
and
So
Tama Tonga just had his last match as well. He's heading out the door.
also 40, also probably going to WWE.
Yeah.
But yeah. So where is Okada gonna go? That's the story of this weekend in particular, I think.
Yeah, I
And
saw you and Tanner going back and forth like talk about this. All I will say is this, and you can take this for what it's worth. I think it would be beneficial for someone like Okada if he could wrestle in a North American company where the time zone difference will not hinder fans who are more used to watching something in a more Eastern or Central Standard Time zone. So it was always a struggle to try to catch New Japan a live show, having to wake up at like from our
well,
end
I
4 to
always just
5
watch
a.m.
it.
in the morning.
I
But
always just watch it
just
when I
saying,
can.
that's all I will say
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see where he goes. But
Yeah,
I figured we should just talk about it a little since it
a
is
little. I mean,
the big thing in the news.
yeah,
But
yeah. Okada is scheduled to be in TNA Impact taping in a 6-man match, but we'll get into that
yes.
later. So yeah, Josh Alexander picked up the pin over Hammerstone. The next match is a 4-way tag team scramble for the TNA World Tag Team Championships.
Another great match.
Yes, the ABC defending against the Rascals, Laredo Kid and Mike Bailey, originally scheduled to be Trent Seven and Mike Bailey, but Trent Seven had travel issues. And the debuting grizzled young vets, or grizzled young veterans as we know them, as James Drake and Zach Gibson.
So happy for
Thankfully,
them.
so happy that they managed to get away from that weird cult-like thing in NXT.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was such a diversion from what we usually
And,
see them as. It was just like,
and it was
what?
also just so odd because you have ready-made stars with how they are and how they have been, and you're just not using them correctly. And then you put them in this, the exact opposite of what they are. It was just so weird. But yeah, they're back to being themselves, being the best versions of themselves, and they've been killing it already on the indies. They're working Wrestling Revolver, they're working GCW, they're working here. They're going everywhere that wants them, and I am dying to see them face FTR. Absolutely, just cannot wait to see that match wherever it happens. But yes, they were great in this match, as were everybody else. Um, and yeah, I mean, all four of these teams are just. I mean, even Mike Bailey and Laredo Kid, who are not a regular
Yeah, they
team,
did actually surprisingly well for
felt
two guys
like
that were just thrown together.
and I mentioned to you that I felt like that was a more natural team than Mike Bailey and Trent Seven, because I felt like the styles aligned more.
Mm.
And I think that's the case here. I don't know if they're going to remain a team, but uh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I love Trent Seven. It just felt weird that he was just randomly again. So was Laredo Kid, just randomly teaming with Mike Bailey.
Yeah.
But I also felt like that was just a more comfortable fit.
Well, Trent Seven was also another new TNA era signing, so we will see
Yes.
more of him in the future. Mike Bailey and Laredo Kid actually faced each other in that 6-man scramble I mentioned that Jake something won. But yeah, if they decide to like keep them more as a permanent like tag team, that would be something to see. Um, Probably would work. It certainly would work much better than Mike Bailey's previous partnership with Jonathan Gresham. That was I mean, they went back and forth whether they were teaming, whether they're facing each other like 5 times. It was just kind of confusing to me at best. But in the
Yep.
end of the day, this was risky because like you have facing 3 other teams, but Ace Austin and Chris Bay beat the odds and retain the TNA World Tag Team Championships.
Yeah.
Definitely wouldn't have been
So
surprised if the titles changed hands, but I guess this is gonna lead to one of these teams that was in this match to take it off of them in another match. More
so
like
I will say that it is still kind of weird that they are the sole members of Bullet Club in TNA and don't get acknowledged by any other member of Bullet Club ever. Literally ever. Um so I don't even know if David Finlay even likes them.
I don't even know if David Finlay remembers them. I mean, other than that, at the one time they showed up in that what was that, the Multiverse United match? It was like Bullet Club versus
Yeah.
everybody else. It was
Yeah.
like the TNA guys, Austin and Bay, joining with
And
the
also
regular Bullet Club guys, first facing
uh,
like Josh Alexander, mix of Josh Alexander,
yes.
PCO, and then the Gorillas of Destiny. So it
Also,
was like,
it's
what?
very clear to me that Bay and Austin are faces,
Yeah.
and the Bullet Club are not.
I'm stunned they're still part of this because my understanding was like Finley wanted to turn his version of Bullet Club into a bunch of like savage animals, and like he got them. He got that in like guys like Drilla Maloney and Alex Coughlin. And then when I look at like ABC, it was just like very odd. It was just like them in their, hey
Yeah,
dudes,
I mean
we're the
I
cool
didn't
guys.
expect.
And it's like Finley's just like, yeah, man, but, like it's too sweet me, baby. And it was like,
Yeah,
wait, what?
I kind of didn't expect that connection to stick, but it has. The
Yeah.
problem is that there's just been no interaction.
Yeah, exactly. It's
So they're just calling themselves members of Bullet Club on TNA Impact and using the theme song that nobody else uses, which is the better Bullet Club
yeah,
theme
and
song.
and you think like with David Finley was like the past year kind of upset on New Japan over how there's this like this sort of pretender group on AEW called Bullet Club Gold, run by the leader that he personally destroyed and kicked out of the group. And yet over on TNA Wrestling, there's like, oh yeah, there's two guys calling themselves Bullet Club too, which I'm like, oh, whatever. I mean, one thing I understand about Bullet Club is all members of Bullet Club have to be like acknowledged or officially sanctioned by, of all people, Gato. So I guess like he sanctioned Ace and
Yeah,
Bay, and to a smaller extent, Mia Yim, who's
yeah.
over with the OC guys who don't call
Well,
themselves Bullet Club,
yeah. I mean,
obviously, but
everybody. Well, they say you're Bullet Club for life.
yeah, you
So
can't never leave.
so even if you
Except
get
when you're Tama Tonga, apparently, and
apparently so,
Hikaleo,
uh, and
and
Tongaloa
yeah, and yeah,
and Jado.
yeah, and Phantasmo. So anyway, um, I
But
don't
either
know.
way, yeah, this match was very fun.
Mhm.
Ace Austin had a couple of slip ups, which is weird for him. That doesn't happen very often for him, but it didn't hurt the match. There was one point where he was doing a springboard and he like slipped. Um, but yeah, I love this match, love everybody in it, and look forward to what's going to happen with GYV because they are uh, continuing to do bookings in TNA for now um, on no contract, and we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. The next match is we're kind of winding down here, so we're actually moving on to like the basically double main event at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The next match is the match for the TNA Knockouts World Championship. Jordan Grace facing off against Trinity, the champion. This is Grace's Call Your Shot Gauntlet championship match. She won the Call Your Shot Battle Royal back at Bound for Glory, um, eliminating Bully Ray, I believe, in the final as the final two. So she called a shot very quickly after that, saying she will face champion at Hard to Kill. Um, So we heard that Trinity is likely to be going back to WWE at some point.
Yes.
Not immediately, but uh, you know, I mean, there were a lot of ways that this could have been done. I mean, I'll just give away. Jordan Grace won the match, and she becomes a three-time Knockouts World Champion to carry the TNA brand going forward for the women's division. I wouldn't have been surprised if Trinity retained, and then perhaps down the road it was like just dropped it to Giselle Shaw or something before
I
heading on her way out the door. But
I
this is
fully expected Jordan Grace to win
yeah,
here because
uh
I
huh.
don't think I think Trinity is like officially done. Because
She was in subsequent other tapings for TNA, so she's still around until
and there's
the
already
big one.
speculation. I guess we'll talk about this later because we're
Yeah,
going to talk about the Royal Rumble.
right.
But yeah. So I thought this match was good for what it was. Um, you could tell that she has really honed her craft since leaving WWE, and I hope that she will use that when she returns and not be the way she was when she was there before.
Yeah. I mean, she's obviously gonna be named Naomi.
Of
That's the thing.
course.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind if they incorporated the name Trinity into something, but I think most people's their most easy guess would be if she comes back, there's going to be some tie-in with her husband Jimmy Uso and the bloodline because a lot of people have been waiting to see something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
in
because that
terms of
storyline
yeah,
as a whole needs something
yeah,
needs something different.
yeah, the bloodline stuff is getting a little stale at this point, right?
Part of the reason I don't watch SmackDown.
Anyway, we're talking about TNA Hard to Kill here.
Yes.
So yeah, Jordan Grace is the new Knockouts World Champion, and we'll see how long her third title reign lasts when you've got somebody like Giselle Shaw kind of looming in the background. Oh, by the way, I can't believe I totally forgot about this. Before this match started, we got even in an off-handed segment, we saw a woman exit from a car.
Oh
Like
yes.
she was a blonde woman dressed in a very beautiful gown and like incredible heels,
So
and we were
even
like,
before the reveal, even
yeah,
before the reveal, there was
yes,
speculation on social media
yeah.
for. I mean, the immediate guesses were, I mean, pretty much correct, but most people were saying Dana Brooke. Most people were saying Camille, even though Camille is not that short.
And
And
Camille herself went on Twitter or X and then just said, "It's not me, guys," immediately
yeah,
when the segment
and
aired.
and then some other people said, oh, there was a couple of names that were thrown around, but Dana Brooke was the favorite, and that's exactly who it was.
Yes, she was introduced at ringside, accompanied by George the Iceman, the guy who does the sort of like formerly did the Beyond the Impact like Iceman Intel segments, former proprietor of a indie wrestling company up in here in the Toronto area that has a very long-standing relationship with TNA personalities. So she was accompanied by George the Iceman and introduced as Ash by Elegance.
Yes, so
Because her
so
real
her
name's Ashley, obviously, but yeah,
yes,
Ash by Elegance.
real
Um,
name Ashley Sabera.
yes. Uh, and she
So
was at ringside to watch the Knockouts World Title match. They did a vignette on Impact TV, introducing her as a seductive, obviously elegant, super female, and we'll
yes,
see like
and of
what's
course,
coming.
social media immediately was like, "Why is she copying Tony Storm?" She's not copying Tony Storm. Let's just get that out of the way. She's not pretending to be a 50s actress who lost her mind. She's whatever this character is different. And people are just trying to compare them because there's some similarities.
For frankly, there is a lot of like similarities between Ash by Elegance's presentation and Giselle Shaw when she came on as a quintessential diva. Now Giselle is still the quintessential diva. She's just looking a little more um tougher and probably
So
more a
I
little more
would,
sophisticated. I would
I
say the similarity is to like the ironically speaking, Ash by Elegance's former tag partner is Tennille Dashwood.
that's where I
Who
was
did,
going.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Who did this strange gimmick called Emelina back in WWE that
yeah,
went literally nowhere. She did
yeah.
one
Because
segment and then that was it.
there was a plan, and then they couldn't get her to get to like where
Yeah,
she needed to
they
be
couldn't get
on
her to
the
be what they want.
character. And
Right.
but yes, I would say it's more similar to that, but we're actually going to see where this goes. Um, so yeah, I'm excited for her because she never got the chance in WWE that she probably earned at some point. She went out of her way to get better at wrestling. She went out of her way to improve over and over and over again, and all they would do every single time was embarrass her on television. They would never give her the opportunity. They did that stupid Money in the Bank in the pandemic where they were climbing the WWE tower, and they did that segment where she found a briefcase in an office, and she was like, "Oh, I won, I got the briefcase." And Stephanie walked in and she was like, "Dana, that's not the briefcase. That's a toy."
Yeah, they had Stephanie McMahon do that to her. So like, hey
Yes.
now, what are you doing? Yeah, that's a prop.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I'm excited for her to actually get an opportunity and to not be somebody's lackey and to not do something dumb and to just be whatever this is and make it work and hopefully do well in the ring.
Yep. Um. Anyway, moving on. I'm trying to remember if there was any other surprise reveals. Not until we finished talking about this match, I believe.
Yes. Yes.
We're now on to the TNA World Championship match. Alex Shelley has been the longest reigning TNA slash Impact World Champion, probably the third longest reigning. Sorry about that. Going into this match, he's facing Moose. This is Moose's Feast or Fired Championship title match. Back at I think it was Bound for Glory, I believe. Yeah, he won the won one of the briefcases that was in the Feast or Fired match. Luckily he was not fired. He got a world title shot. All of it, and said he was going to use it at Hard to Kill, which is what he did. Uh, Before the match started, he came out with the members of the system who kind of like, gave him some back slaps before heading to the back, interestingly. So Moose wanted to do this by himself, and he took on Alex Shelley, one of the best wrestlers in his generation and probably in this company's history. Went over clean. No, it
Yep.
was a sudden spear out of nowhere, and then it was a one, two,
Worst
three.
spear in the business.
Okay. Yeah, I probably I wouldn't I didn't I don't notice that, but
Oh,
that's
I've noticed that
in
years ago.
comparison to some other spears, I'll have to take a look at that. But yeah, Alex Shelley did some solid work here. A lot of you know
Yes.
he is a bit of a submission specialist, so he picked his spots and picked off Moose's arm here and there and that
Hmm.
sort of thing.
Yeah, this match was fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I told you the last time that we talked about Impact that I expected Moose to be the one to beat him, and I was correct. uh,
Yeah. I had speculated that Alex Shelley would have retained if they wanted to keep the Guns as like the faces of because Chris Sabin managed to keep the X Division title. So
so I feel like there's always been a plan in place for Moose to get the world title back at some point. With the way that
yeah,
Healy lost it, and everything that kind of happened in between, with Macklin not really getting to have a long reign, and um, yeah, I always expected that Moose would get it back, and I don't know how long, but he's going to have he has
yeah.
Um,
because there are a number of challengers, and I don't know if you
yes,
want to finish your point before I move on to how
yes,
the show ended.
yes. So I guess to tee that up, I there was speculation going around that TNA has a new signing, but there was no
Right.
confirmation that
Yeah.
this was a
Yeah.
signing.
This was spun as like it's sort of like the ultimate crossover. It was like to the point where people were speculating some kind of official partnership with like one of the major wrestling companies. That's how I felt it was
Hmm.
spun. So the match ends. Moose is declared the TNA World Champion. He's celebrating in the ring. His buddies from the system come out. Eddie, Alicia, Brian, and strangely enough, one of the linebackers from the NFL, which I'm not
No,
that. I don't know who that
he
was.
he was a running back. His name is
But
D'Angelo Williams. He has wrestled in TNA before.
oh, okay. Thank you for clearing that up because I had no idea who that gentleman was. They're
Yes.
standing on the ramp, strangely enough, and just start clapping and applauding. You would think they would be joining Moose in the ring to like hoist him up as a new champion when suddenly some kind of weird music plays and then we see the name emblazoned on the big screen, Nick Nemeth, formerly
Hmm.
known as Dolph Ziggler. And then they were looking. I was like, "Is he coming out the entrance?" Because the TNA set up
No.
a ring entrance, like an entrance that's like a tube, right? And I was like, "Where is he? Where is he? Where is he?" And then suddenly he's just standing behind Moose, and then Moose turns around. He's looking at the guy, and he's like, "What?" And then Moose tries to take a cheap shot, but not a cheap shot. He tries to punch Nick in the face. Nick spins around and then hits him with what was known as a zigzag, which is now, I believe, called the danger zone,
Yes.
right on the TNA logo, appropriately enough. And then Nick, gets the heck out of the ring as soon as the rest of the system runs into the ring. Nick is like wading his way through the crowd, Nick Nemeth, and then he stands there. He starts trying to tear off his shirt, finally does it. He tears off his shirt to reveal that he's wearing a new TNA wrestling shirt underneath. So we're like, oh wow, the Nick Nemeth signed with TNA.
Yeah.
Not exactly, but
No. Nobody really knows what it. So I think this comes down to what we talked about with Hammerstone.
right,
Um, I think that he was tied down for so long, nearly 20 years with one
yeah.
company, and I think that he is just going to do the freelancer thing for a pretty long time, or for however long he wants, and weigh his options because he already has matches lined up in New Japan in February, in GCW in February, um, and I guess he's going to be doing storylines in TNA for the time being, and I'm sure he's going to do other. I'm sure that he's going to go to Revolver. I'm sure. I don't even know. I think something might have already been announced for Revolver. I have to double check, but
Uh huh.
um, yeah, he's going to finally. So we all knew how good Dolph Ziggler was. Everybody knew when he won the world title for the first time. Well, the second time technically, when he won the world title by cashing in Money in the Bank, was one of the biggest moments in the world. The crowd absolutely lost it. This was something that everybody wanted, and then he got hurt and never got another opportunity. Literally ever. He was just thrown into random storylines every once in a while for the next decade after that.
Yeah,
And
the best run I think Dolph Ziggler had was in like late 2016 when he and the Miz exchanged the
uh
Intercontinental title back and forth. And
yeah,
also he had that big moment when in the 2014 Survivor Series he ended up being the sole survivor by with a little help from Sting, beating
yes,
Seth Rollins and like at that time Luke Harper.
yes,
Even John Cena was from his team was eliminated early on. So we were like at that point, oh
Yes.
my god.
So, but
So
even after all of that,
yeah, after all of that, it just kind of
he
went.
still never got an opportunity to be a top guy. And that is mind boggling because the guy is so good at everything. And I mean, that's just not, it's not feasible to me that you did not do something with this guy for all of that time. And then there was a time where he was going to leave, I believe in like 2017 ish area, and they begged him to stay and then still did nothing. They would just randomly put him in tag teams or, oh, here's a US title that we don't want you to carry for very long. And
That was so strange. He won the U.S. title and immediately vacated it.
yes, that was stupid. Just like most of the things that he did post 2016. It was so weird. And I'm very excited for him to finally have this opportunity to go on and do whatever he wants and show that he was as good as he said he was.
Yeah.
And
So yeah. And Nemeth actually came out pretty strong. He did a video on his social media, basically branding himself as like this wanted man. So he was, yeah, his new nickname is the Wanted Man. And so actually, Nick Nemeth had a segment in TNA Impact this past Thursday, where he kind of gave his promo as like, after 19 years, I think I need to do something for myself, right? And then
mhm,
it looks like his first feud. I mean, he's gonna go after a world title, but his first feud is gonna be with Steve Macklin, because Steve
yes,
Macklin came out and said,
I
"Hey,
watched this segment. I saw it on
yeah,
YouTube.
yeah." He's like, and you're looking at two guys that are very similar. You know, Macklin was rarely utilized or not utilized properly in WWE, and then he broke off on his own, came to TNA, and then became world champion. So you're looking at a most similar path here with Nemeth.
Yeah,
But
the differences
yeah,
I think are, well, as we mentioned, Dolph Ziggler had 20 years in WWE
right.
and a bunch of opportunities, whereas Macklin I think had less than a decade and didn't get any. So yes, they're similar in that they're out of that system and they're going to, and they're showing that they are better than ever. Um, but yeah, I'm excited for that match in particular because I think it'll be a good one.
Yeah, that's gonna be something. And well, Nemeth is already scheduled to face Zach Wentz in the next week's
Yes,
Impact. So,
yes, and
um,
as mentioned before, he showed up at Wrestle Kingdom and
yes, faced off with David Finley.
yeah,
Hmm.
so he will be having a IWGP Global Championship match in February, and also facing Matt Cardona in GCW in February. Um, Matt Cardona did a promo on the most recent GCW show where he was supposed to be in a tag match, but was replaced by Cole Cabana due to travel issues. There was 3 matches on this show actually that were affected by travel issues due to weather the same weekend as this show. And yeah, so that match is happening also, which is crazy to think that we're getting a Zack Ryder versus Dolph Ziggler match, not in WWE. And I'm excited to see it because it's happening in GCW, where anything can happen. So yeah, very happy for Nick Nemeth and where he's going to go from here and keep getting better, hopefully.
And with that, well, that ends our review for TNA Hard to Kill. And so it was a very good pay per view, and lots of things to look forward to in Total Nonstop Action Wrestling.
Yeah.
And with that, we have some time left, Mike. So Royal Rumble is coming up. As of this
Yes.
recording, it will be on next Saturday, January 27th
Yes.
at the Tropicana dome, I guess, in
Yeah,
I
so
think Tampa area.
last year we did 2 separate episodes
Yeah,
talking about both Royal Rumble matches, but we
right.
kind of A forgot and B wanted to talk about this show. So we're just gonna throw them in here and talk about the Royal Rumbles as a whole and like kind of like a little bit about what's going on, because this is the beginning of as the cliche, I guess, the beginning of the road to WrestleMania and the build to the biggest show of the year in some people's eyes ever. Um, I am always excited for the Royal Rumble because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, last year we had Gunther run the table and then lose, and was one of the best performances of anybody ever in a Royal Rumble. Um, and Rhea Ripley did run the table and won. So that was very interesting. And yeah, I think starting off with the men's. So I think this could go to. There's 3 names I think that people are throwing around that everybody kind of expects, right? It's Cody Rhodes again, Gunther, and CM Punk. Because, and I guess we'll throw this in here, Seth Rollins right now is injured, but as of right now, there's no word on whether he needs to vacate or is going to be out for an extended period of time to miss Mania or anything like that. I guess we're going to find this out on Monday. But CM Punk is for whatever. Uh, if Seth is good to go, that's the match. And I don't think you need a Royal Rumble win to set that up. I mean, Jinder Mahal got a title shot for nothing. So, literally for nothing. So, telling me that CM Punk needs to win a Royal Rumble to face Seth Rollins when Jinder Mahal had 0 wins in over a year makes no sense. So, that's why I don't think CM Punk needs to win this match. That's the main reason. And they gave it to me right on a silver platter right there. So, Gunther, I think so. This is going to tie into, I guess, the surprises, right? There's multiple guys I think that Gunther should face at Mania, but he should not be going for a world title if he is still the Intercontinental Champion. Gunther, there's one match in particular that everybody wants to see out of Gunther, and that's Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar has never held any championship other than a world title. So even if that match is to happen, which I hope it does, then Gunther should absolutely win. But doesn't need to win the Royal Rumble because he still has the Intercontinental. Unless he loses it sometime in between after winning the Rumble, then that's a different story. Then you have Cody Rhodes. Now, last year, he came in very late in the Rumble and won, which was very predictable because he was coming off of injury, of course, and everybody expected him to win because finish the story, right? And then he didn't, which was the wrong move.
You're gonna rehash this over and over, I feel like. So
Well, I that's as far as I'm going because
okay.
I've said it enough.
Yeah.
It was the wrong move, and it's just if The Rock is not, I don't think is going to be at WrestleMania. I'm convinced. I am convinced that he is not going to be there because we have not seen him since in any form or fashion since he said the head of the table line. Um, if he if he shows up on Raw or SmackDown at any point in between now and WrestleMania, I don't think it'll be to set up a match. It will be to say either I'm going to be at WrestleMania and Roman Reigns, and I'll be watching that Roman Reigns match closely, which kind of, to me, would say that he's going to cause Roman to lose, which is kind of stupid, but is something that WWE would do because they've done it before with John Cena. Or he's going to have some kind of confrontation with Roman Reigns before Mania to set up a match in the future. Because I don't think, and if you are doing this Rock match with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, then Roman absolutely needs to lose the belt before then. Because Roman is not wrestling twice. And if you want, Rock can't be in the Rumble. That is, I'm saying it right now. Rock cannot be in the Rumble. I refuse to acknowledge that that is a possibility.
So the Rock cannot be in the Rumble.
Cannot.
Okay.
Cannot. If that happens, it's wrong. Because if he's in it, he's winning. And that is just one. I would be so angry if that happened. I would be so angry. And it would further my reasoning for not watching SmackDown.
I'm also leaving the possibility open to the extent of how serious Seth Rollins' injury is. That as of this recording, we haven't gotten to Monday Night Raw yet, so he's supposed to open a show and make an announcement about his future, that kind of thing. So in the event he vacates the title, like there is an outlier possibility that the Royal Rumble will just be for the World Heavyweight Championship. Winner will become the new champion.
I mean,
that hasn't happened. That hasn't happened since 2016 when Roman Reigns, I think, was made to defend the WWE title in the Royal Rumble, which was won by Triple H. All people.
Yes, of course. One of
totally,
the worst Royal Rumbles in history.
Yeah. But I think running back that scenario this time, it's for necessity reasons.
I mean, if that's the case, if they do that, then Cody's not winning.
Yeah, then Punk would be winning most likely.
But also, then Cody would never reason to be in the match at all because he doesn't want that belt.
Right.
He wants the belt that Roman is holding. He said that on Raw. So that's why I don't think they're going to do that. I think if Seth is healthy enough to heal up or at least be healthy enough to work WrestleMania, he does not need to be stripped. Because Roman doesn't defend his belt for 4 months sometimes. And he doesn't get stripped. So, Ed, you've had pay-per-views in the past that didn't have world title matches. Because we already know that Roman is not going to Australia. So you can build that pay-per-view around Rhea Ripley, which is what you should be doing in the first place.
Yes.
So, and you could also use the Elimination Chamber match to determine who is challenging for the other belt. Whoever wins the Rumble is going to challenge for a specific belt. So use the Elimination Chamber to determine who's challenging for the other belt. It's not a great idea because why were you in a Royal Rumble if you're just going to get another opportunity? But that's what they do. They do it every year. So yeah, as far as surprises go for the men, I think Andrade is a slam dunk. We all pretty much expect him to come back. As far as legends, I think I said this last year, and I'm going to say it again. X-Pac should be in the Rumble. I mean, because he keeps saying on social media, like, "Oh, I could go tomorrow," like, but they haven't asked me or whatever. And he always does this, but I think this year it's going to happen. I just have a feeling because it's in LA. Oh no, that was last year. It's in Philly. So
Are you talking about the Rumble?
no, I was talking about Mania.
Oh, okay.
The Rumble's in Tampa.
Yeah.
I just misspoke. Yeah, I think it would just be cool to see. Because you always want to see at least one like returning legend in the
Yeah,
Rumble
and
that
he
we
would be a
haven't
cool one.
seen.
He would be a cool one to have. You know, it's not like Kevin Nash or somebody like that who can't move around that well. Sorry. Or Big Show, you know, for
I
example.
mean, and we've also seen Kevin Nash return in the Rumble like 4 times.
Right.
um, but yeah, I can't really, and I don't want to see Booker T get up from the comment. I don't want to see Booker T get up from the commentary desk and be like, "Oh, it's my turn." He's done that like 3 times. I don't want to see
Yeah,
that again.
listen, I would rather see Trick Williams be in the Rumble and then just have
Yeah.
Booker T sing along to the his entrance music, you
Yes.
know. Whoop that trick. What? Whoop the trick.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
and with that, I would say that like somebody like a Braun Breaker should definitely be in the Rumble.
Oh yeah.
Braun Breaker shouldn't even be in NXT anymore. Um,
Well, I sent you some of the latest stuff he's doing. He's partnering with Baron Corbin in the Dusty Classic, and
with one of the worst tag team names in the history of tag team names.
but it seems like the comedic chemistry is pretty good in terms of the two of those
Eh,
guys.
it's not for me.
Okay. Yeah. Well.
But yeah, and Carmelo Hayes also same exact reasoning as
Yeah.
Braun Breaker.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's at least been on SmackDown recently,
Yes.
so he's already got the and people already have the idea of who he is and how good he is, and he should just be on the main roster already because he is that good. Um, so yeah, I mean that's who I have for the men. I also I want to throw this in there. The possibility of Big E coming back
Mm,
will always be on my mind because it's been 2 years since his neck injury.
yeah.
Um, Gunther has been heavy feuding with New Day as far as like all of Imperium has been feuding with New Day. And recently they've been trying to take New Day out. And it would be perfect if Big E were to return to save them or in the Rumble and to take out Gunther, and then you set up Gunther versus Big E at WrestleMania. That would be amazing. And nobody has outright said Big E is retired. Nobody has outright said it. Nobody has outright said if he's ever coming back, but I would love if he did. Everybody would
Yeah,
love
yeah. I
if he
mean,
did.
let's remember his injury was really serious because he got literally dropped on his head, and
Yeah,
I think thankfully he didn't break it or break his neck to the extent where it was like he couldn't walk. Like he managed to recover well
yeah,
enough, and but it was just with that kind of an injury, you just don't want to take any chances. That's why he's been gone for 2 years. So
yeah,
I'm really hoping that
yes,
that was not the end of his wrestling career, because that would be very tragic for someone like that.
yes. So
And
if it's even a possibility, having him return in the Rumble to either have a good run in there, or to confront Gunther, eliminate him, and then set up a Mania match for the IC belt, that would be amazing.
yeah,
I would love that.
yeah. Should we move on to the women's rumble?
Yeah. So the women. So as of right now, in my mind, I think there's two favorites,
Mm,
and that is Becky and Bailey.
yeah,
I can't see any other person right now possibly winning the Rumble.
right.
Becky kind of telegraphed what she's doing at WrestleMania on Raw.
Hmm.
So that's why I don't think she needs to win. She's already won a Rumble in the past. You can easily do something at Chamber. And that would honestly be the best. Do something at Chamber, which is in Australia, where she wins her opportunity to face Rhea. And then they do something in Australia, like to set that up. That would be perfect.
Right.
So then you have Bailey, who has really been on the outs of this uh, new version of damage control,
Yeah.
who is kind of the only person that isn't like in the know.
Japanese in the know, because
In the
Dakota I think actually understands some Japanese, so
yes,
he has better communication with the others.
and that Bailey versus Io match is a match that we want to see, right?
Yeah, yeah, you just
Every
have to condition it appropriately.
yeah, everybody kind of wants to see that
I
match.
am surprised that they haven't kicked her out of damage control already. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like it's still
I
going
think
on.
they're saving that for the build.
Yeah, the same as the
Um,
bill. It's almost like the Sami Zayn and breaking up with the bloodline. It was like you're just
yeah.
waiting for when it's gonna happen, right?
So if Bailey were like, because Bailey wins the Rumble, and then Io's immediately like, oh, what are you going to challenge me? Because if you challenge me, then like obviously,
Bailey on commentary was because you don't watch SmackDown, but she was saying she'll be gunning after Rhea as well. But like, it's
she's
how
just
likely is
saying
that?
that.
She
She's
was
just
saying
saying
that
that.
because
Yeah,
like because if she actually did that and she actually won, she'll have to be on Raw, and it's like you kind of broke up damage control by yourself, and it's like
yeah. No,
that
I
wasn't
think
that's not the way how that ends.
if
Yeah,
Bailey is the person, and obviously Bailey deserves it, right? Bailey has been one of the most consistent people in all of WWE. She carried the pandemic era. She's always been good. Every time that she's been there, they give her the short end of the stick at WrestleMania. I mean, they did that stupid thing where she was the host and she got beat up by the Bellas,
oh
which
gosh,
was just so I could not believe that that was a thing that they did to somebody who was instrumental in carrying their division for so long. And she absolutely deserves it. And like I said, a match between her and Io would be great. Um, then you have so I don't see Bianca winning again. I do see her having a strong performance, and I think that you can set up something for her at Mania in the Rumble. So there's been a lot of talk of possibly Jade Cargill being in the Rumble because we haven't really heard much of her recently. She was for a while when she first appeared was just showing up backstage at shows and having stare downs or just talking to management. And I think the Rumble is the perfect place to debut her. Um, and you could set up a match between her and Bianca, which could be a good substitute for I think Bianca's original match, which was supposed to be Charlotte.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you could also do something with Naomi. Maybe you set up something where you need to protect Jade and have her in a tag team, and you can do like Naomi and Bianca versus Jade and somebody else, or something along those lines. Because you want Bianca on the card, obviously, but you don't want her in like a battle royal.
Yeah,
So
that would like be almost irrelevant.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think if Jade is finally ready, or they think she's in some form of ready,
Well,
she will.
being in the Rumble would be the best way to introduce her. She wouldn't have to work that much. Like she just have to do a few.
Yeah, they could bring her in late. They could bring her in like 28 or
Mhm,
27 or something
mhm.
like that because they're not going to put her in at the beginning. Um, but yeah, I think that, and that would be good to have her work with somebody like Bianca if that was her first feud. Because Bianca is great and could carry her. Um, I think maybe you have the possibility of a Trish Stratus because we haven't seen her since the Zoe Stark turn.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the possibility of maybe a Lita. who just vanished from WWE after Trish attacked her, even though we
Yeah,
never saw
we
it.
totally forgot about that, it seems.
Yes. Molly Holly's always a shot because she works there. Um, Michelle McCool is always a possibility because she's basically in every Rumble.
I mean, she might be in the Hall of Fame this year, as far as I know.
Yeah, but why not? Um, but yeah, I think even Beth Phoenix is always a possibility, even if her husband works at another company. That doesn't really matter. But yeah, I think it's gotten to the point where I kind of struggle with thinking of who could be a surprise in the women's rumble these days. But I think you also should throw in some NXT people. I mean, you got Tiffany Stratton.
Yeah, I almost said Cora Jade, but she tore her ACL.
Yeah, unfortunately for her, she's going to be gone for a long time after being out for for
That's
however long it took her for her plastic surgery um, procedure.
okay.
Yeah, well, that's what it was. But Tiffany Stratton is a home run. Put her in the Rumble.
Probably Lyra Valkyria as the NXT Women's Champion.
Uh, well, I mean, you've had Royal Rumble winners challenge for the NXT title before, so do you want to put the NXT
Well,
champion
they probably just randomly put it in there just to see how it goes.
Yeah,
But I think based on the trajectory this year, I don't think that any Rumble winner is going to challenge for the NXT Women's title.
No, of course not.
Based on what we just said.
Yeah, of course not. But yeah, I think either way, it's got to be Bailey. It's gotta be. I can't even fathom another name that would win. But yeah, and surprises I think are few and far between right now for the women. Unless and Naomi, of course, we talked about is coming back at some point. The Rumble would be the perfect spot. But yeah, I think she would have a good showing, but she's not going to win. I mean, unless you want to throw out a complete curveball and have her win, but I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, so I think most likely it would be Bailey.
Yes, of course.
All right. Just want to wrap things up here. So, in terms of Rumble predictions, we got Bailey for the women's side, and on the men's side, it's
I'm going with Cody. It has to be Cody.
Cody, okay.
Yeah, it has to be. Because I don't think the world title thing will be. I don't think the world title will be on the line. I think.
Well, as a curveball, I'll just put CM Punk just because of all this stuff lately, and
sure,
they're supposed to have a CM Punk and Cody are supposed to have a face off on Monday Night Raw, so we'll see how that goes. Just before the Rumble, right? So yeah, okay, it's either Cody, maybe Punk on men. Yeah, and those are just our quick Rumble predictions, and hopefully you enjoyed our review of Hard to Kill at TNA. Royal Rumble is coming up on January 27th, Saturday at Tropicana Stadium in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Florida. Tune in, see how the road to WrestleMania kicks off. And with that, we are ending this episode of the SLTD Going Over Big Time podcast.
Yes. And before we get out of here, just make sure to check out our Linktree / Going Over Big Time podcast, where it has every possible way to listen / watch this podcast, as well as our social medias. And yeah, that is it.
Thank you for listening, everyone. Have a good day.